that's better. Going live. You're live.
Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome to the shop.
No.
What?
You picked ultra low latency.
Oh, did it change that? I didn't catch it again?
Yeah.
Are we live now?
Yeah.
So some of you are probably going to have a little bit of problem with buffering if you're live. I'm sorry for that. Hopefully it'll catch up. Who knows? Maybe it'll work this time. But apparently I clicked the wrong button again.
I just saw it.
So yeah, tonight is a live Q&A, so we're going to be answering any questions in the live chat. So if you have any of those, throw them in there. Sarah will be adding them into the list, and we'll get to as many as we can tonight. Don't always know how many we'll get through. If you're watching this recorded, then we will have timestamps down below that will get you roughly close to where the questions were asked. So you can look down through that and see if those are anything you want. So it's kind of a laid-back time, and we get to show, demonstrate, do a few things. And we will be doing a couple giveaways tonight because I have extra shirts. So if you haven't seen these are the Triforce that the Dad, Joke, Woodworking, put them all together. You have Wood by Wright. And so it's kind of a fun one. If you want to see those, they're on my website. But we will be doing a giveaway, at least one, if not two. Might do one midway and then one at the end. So stay tuned for that. As to things going on in the shop, there's not been a whole lot going on in the shop. We haven't had a chance to work on the bench with Sarah. So that has not been going much anywhere. Got a few things coming up. We've got the auction this coming weekend. I sold the Stanley 45 that was full complete with box. It went for actually a good bit more than I was expecting. I was expecting like 130, maybe 140 at most. Went for 280. So, wow, apparently those are far more in value than I thought. But this week, I've got a few things that I'm looking at here. So I've got the Stanley 71, and this one has both the fence and the mouth closer on there. It comes with one cutter, but it is all there. Has a little bit of surface rust on it and some spots like that, but that make a really good user. I've got the Stanley 79, but it's missing the depth stop, but very few of them come with that. And this is for a side rabbit cutter for making rabbits or grooves or dados wider. Kind of a fun one with half of the original box. And then I got this that I was looking at. This is a... it goes by a couple different joints, a couple different names, but most commonly it's the hinge mortise plane. It's basically a big router plane, got this big mouth on there. So like a router plane has this big mouth in front of the blade. This is designed for opening up the mortises that hinges go in, so going down an 1/8 inch to get that out. So there's a longer reference surface, so you can reach from one side of the hinge to the other and be able to do that out. So this comes down and basically it's a router plane. So it's kind of an interesting one, but I might be selling that one. I might hold off on this. I'm thinking about trying to do a video on this one, but we'll see how that goes. So other things happening in the shop, there's not too much. The spoon carving video apparently bombed. It's one of the worst videos I've had in a while. So I don't know, but it's a really fun project. I was kind of surprised by that. And then for those of you who don't know, I don't have them here. In the video, I said that the spoon blanks were 50% off. I was wrong. The spoon blanks are 50% off. However, the hook knives are also 50% off. So all of those items that I was showing on there are 50% off at Tay Tools if you use the code SPOONFLASH, which is like, holy cow. Apparently he ordered way more than he needed and just needs to get them out of stock. So they're phenomenal hook knives and spoons. 50% off with Spoon Flash. So jump at it. I was rather surprised he was selling all those for that. So if you're looking for Christmas gift ideas, that is a great way to get them, since you're getting like a $30 knife for $15. I think that's about it for what's going on in the shop. So let's start jumping into questions. Anything I'm missing before we do that?
No, they're just, I think, saddened that there isn't much to report on the bench.
Yeah, I know we haven't had much time, so hopefully this weekend we'll have some time.
You know, there's something about a pandemic going on at work, and you know.
Yeah, and Sarah gives me a call and says, I'm going to be later than late tonight, so.
Good times, good times.
Life
All
is
right,
fun.
on to happier things. what did Steeltoe have to say? Hi, I followed you for years. I have a question on, I'm assuming it's quarter sawn white oak. What kind of dye can you use to pop the grain?
Ooh, popping grain. Now, in most woods, you don't want to pop the grain. You want a homogeneous color. And particularly in maples and birch and pine, things like that, where if you put an oil-based finish on it, you get this blotchy appearance. But in quarter sawn oak, you want that blotchy appearance because the blotchiness happens between the rays and the regular grain. And so usually the best way to pop it is with oil. And that's where boiled linseed oil really comes out. And so using a dye, it depends on the dye. If you're going to use a water-based dye, they tend to not pop the grain. If you're using an oil-based dye, then it will pop the grain more than others. So it's really not about the color as much as about the content. Usually for what I like to do is actually use a boiled linseed oil to bring out the two, and then mix that in with the stain that I want to use. So I use an oil-based stain or an oil-based dye, and then use the boiled linseed oil, and that tends to bring out the contrast much better between the two. But it's one of those things you really got to experiment with and find what you're looking for, because very rarely do I ever want to color white oak. I really like the natural tones. And so just using the oil, the boiled linseed oil to bring out the color in it, that's about all I really want. So I'm not as big on using dyes and stains for that. I know a lot of other people like to do other things, but they got, what's the word? Ammonia. Ammonia fuming is another big one. I haven't done a whole lot with it. I've tried it a couple times, but that doesn't as much bring out the grain as it does just add a color to the wood. But often with that, I'll then still go over it with boiled linseed oil to bring out that tone. So that's my general take on that. But it's more about the what is in. The reason being is that oil is a little bit thicker, and the rays are a much denser packed fiber, so it doesn't allow that to soak in as far or as much, and so the rays tend to be lighter. Whereas the regular grain has a lot of those, the veins going all the way up and down. And so that will actually soak up a lot more, much easier. So the oil will go into those pores much easier, but it won't go into the rays very easily. And so we get that contrast between the light rays and the darker wood. Whereas if it's water, it's going to go into both pretty easily because it's much thinner, much less viscous, much more viscous, much more runny, and it will go into more of it more homogeneously. So there. What's next?
Hang on.
I'm hanging.
Let's see. Dan Sackett, what does he say? What are the different types of spoke shaves about? I've seen round bottom, flat, concave, bevel up, bevel down. What advantages do each offer?
Oh, lots of things. Let me just grab 3. And spoke shaves are kind of like card scrapers, are kind of like clamps, is that you can never have enough, and you eventually find yourself collecting all of them. A bevel down round bottom spoke shave will generally do almost everything, and this is the one I use. It's from Miller Falls, but it's got this rounded surface in front of the iron. I can actually flip this one around and give it a flat surface, so this one's a little bit of both.
Okay,
but the nice thing about the rounded surface.
Hang on. It's all black.
Oh, I hit the wrong button. Oh, that's better. I hope that works. Sorry about that.
I'm like, ah.
This is the one from Miller Falls, so it has a rounded surface here. I actually flip this around and put it on a flat surface. One of the things I like about this particular design. But with a rounded surface, you can still do flat surfaces with a rounded bottom. But if you have one that has a flat bottom, you can't do a rounded surface. It just doesn't reach in there. So a rounded bottom is usually the way to go. The problem is a rounded bottom is harder to learn, because if you rotate it at all, it becomes very hard to feel where it's actually cutting. And so that's why most of the time I tell people, just get a standard Stanley 151 with a flat bottom. This will do most things. You're not usually going to be doing a whole lot of steep rounded bottoms. But when you do, then you're going to want to pick up a rounded bottom. And then you can start getting to some of the other ones with the concave or convex, and they get really, really fancy. But usually it's just about, I want to sneeze.
Don't sneeze.
Oh,
No.
oh man. Whoa, that was kneading. Oh well. Usually it's just about the different surfaces you're coming through. Now, bevel up, bevel down. Usually, most all spoke shaves are beveled down, unless they are a wooden body spoke shave or a bottom soled spoke shave, in which case then the bevel is up, and the back of the iron is actually the sole of the spoke shave that it's running on. And so that's the other one. And there really isn't a difference between those other than feel and functionality. It's kind of just a personal preference from that point on. But it's one of those things, once you start getting to spoke shaves, they're so easy to get so many different variations that you just start collecting them because each one has a slightly different feel and a slightly different place, and everyone likes that slightly different feel from this one and that one, and I may use this one in that situation, and you may use this in that same situation, and it's just really, it comes down to personal preference. So as long as you get like a 151, and you can get a 151 now with a flat or a rounded, and most of the time you can buy them in a kit with both. There are several off brands. There's actually one on Amazon that I suggest. It'll be in my suggested tools on my website. Tay Tools also has a kit of them. Actually, I think the one on my website is from Tay Tools. It's same price as actually if you buy them on Amazon. You're probably buying it from Tay Tools. He does a lot of selling on Amazon. So yeah, can never have enough of them. What's next?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay,
No,
good. We're
is.
done then. We can go home.
Yeah, go home. Okay, well, that's a far trip for me. Let's see. Okay, how do I say this name?
Alec.
Oh, it says Alex, but
Yeah, no, just Alex. Don't worry about the last name. He told me don't worry about the last name.
that is part of my job, is to attempt.
The slaughtering of the name. Let it happen.
Okay, hang on. I gotta look at this. Afanasyev? I'm probably not even close, but I had to try. I want to know what nationality that is now. Anyway, this may not be a hand tool question about plug cutters for drill press. I got a very cheap set and it simply doesn't cut. Any tips on how to sharpen it, or do I just throw it away and get a better one?
Yeah, throw it away and get a better one. Plug cutters, well, depending upon the design, there's a bunch of different designs. Most of them you can sharpen, but they tend to be made of either high-speed steel or they have a carbide tips. And at that point, you just, yeah, they're theoretically can be sharpened, but it's just not worth it. Now, I know there's lots of other people out there who will say, yes, of course you can sharpen them. You do this, that, and the other thing with the diamond plate and a paddle, and you can spend an hour and a half on them. And yeah, you can sharpen them, but it's generally not worth it. So.
Can and should.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've used a plug cutter. It's been...
What would a plug cutter even do?
Wow, it's been a long time. Well, what happens with a plug cutter is if you're doing screw joinery and you've countersunk the screw into the body, and now you've got that hole and you want to fill the hole. Yeah. Well, you can use a dowel to fill the hole, but then you'll be getting all the end grain. It just looks like a dark peg filling a hole.
Which is what you like.
That's what I like when I do pins.
Yeah.
However, if I'm going to smooth the surface and I want it to disappear so I'm not showing it, I want to have long grain on there. So I want to cut a round plug out of a board. And so a plug cutter cuts a round plug into a board so that you can get long grain going across the dowel rather than having the end grain poking out the end of the dowel.
I think I got you.
Yeah.
I think.
Cool. What's next?
It's not going to hurt my brain cells trying to figure it out. All right. Alex again said another about sharpening. In many videos, you suggest to have a strop nearby and sharpen every so often. When/how to determine if I need to go back to stones and not just to strop?
If it is dull, you need to go back and sharpen it on the plates and stones. Speaking of which, strops, if you'd like to buy them, I actually sell horse butt strops in my shop. So, homemade, there you go. Sports channel, thank you. There's your plug for after your plug cutters. That was a bad one. But yeah, if the tool is...
Are you trying to do a joke?
I was trying to do a joke.
Oh, please.
It didn't work well.
Stick to your job. That's my job.
If the tool is dull, it needs to go back to the plates. A strop is for making a tool that is still sharp, sharper. It is what keeps it extra keen. So if I'm at the bench and doing carving and detail work where that really sharp edge is incredibly important, every 5-6 minutes or so I'm going to stop and strop it and just keep it sharp. It only takes a couple seconds, and especially just leaving it flat on the bench, just 10-15 strokes and I'm right back at it, and it keeps that edge incredibly sharp. If I'm chopping mortises, I'm probably not going to strop it because I'm going to make it duller faster than it needs to, and I'd be like stropping every few seconds. And with mortises, it doesn't have to be incredibly sharp. It doesn't have to be incredibly keen. It's just got to chop the mortise. But if I'm doing detailed carving, then I want it sharp, and that's where I'm going to be stropping all the time. And so my carving tools, those almost never go back to the stones. If I drop them and chip them, then I'll take them back to the stones. But most of the time, all they ever touch is the strop, and that's because I never let them get dull. My chisels, if I'm doing carving or detail paring, I'll strop them. If I'm going to be cutting mortises, then I'll take them back and sharpen them up on that. Planes, I do know some people who will stop and strop. I usually let them get too dull, which means I have to take them back to the stones and then strop them. But again, in the end, that's a personal preference. What's next? I can do that too. Ooh, there's the glare I love.
What was it that you said the other day?
Your glare is penetrating my soul.
Yeah. I've had many times to practice it and perfect it. All right. Brigette Lopez asked, I am confused with all of the different, it says patens with braces. Patens.
I don't know.
I don't know. Can you please suggest what I should be looking for?
I don't know what you mean by patens. When looking for braces, it depends on what you want to put into it. Most of them have a 2-jaw chuck with a little triangular cutout in each jaw, so that they'll grab the corners of the square brace bit. But with the braces, you really can't go wrong. As long as it grabs the bit and it's still square. Some of them will be bent from pushing on them or twisting it. So as long as they're still semi in line, they were all good back in the day. There really isn't a bad one. And most of them are going to come with a ratcheting mechanism. I've only used the ratcheting mechanism once or twice in my entire time if I needed it. So it's one of those things where, yeah, it's nice occasionally, but it's just not that important. And braces are one of those things where once you have one, then suddenly there's thousands of other ones for sale for pennies. And so you end up with a whole bunch of them. And I've got 5 here. I've got another one coming in the mail. I finally found a long throw brace for Sarah. So the longer throw, so you can do the
I hope that doesn't count as like a Christmas present.
Oh, I shouldn't have told you yet, huh? And I think I've got 4 or 5 upstairs. I just gave away 2 more. They're the type of thing where if you buy another tool, for some reason it always comes with a brace. Because there's a pile of them to get rid of, and they're all over the place. So yeah, if that didn't answer your question, go ahead and ask it again. What's next?
Look at you making sure he knows the rules. Yeah, you know what I like for gifts. I mean, tools are good, but that better not be what's wrapped under the Christmas tree this year.
Oh, thanks, Alan.
Oh, yes.
I came in at the wrong time. Round bottom versus flat bottom. What are we talking about?
All about the base.
Yes, it is all about the base. What do we got for the joke?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
What do you call a sleepwalking nun?
What?
A Roman Catholic. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Roman. Anyway.
What's the next joke? The next
Oh, do you want another joke? Oh, I guess the word that we were looking for with the brace was a paten. Is there a paten with brace?
There's lots of different patents.
Okay, anyways. Fruit guy. How do you know if linseed oil is boiled or not?
It says it's boiled.
Okay, that works.
Yeah. If it says linseed oil, it usually means it's not boiled. It means that it's raw. I've never seen anyone who has boiled linseed oil that doesn't sell it as boiled linseed oil, because that makes the price go up. So.
Sorry, I think I'm hearing a recorder. We're being serenaded with a Melody original. Let's see. Gordon McCall, what did he ask? I saw Stanley Sweet Heart. Oh, geez. What did I push?
Oh, you split the screen.
Oh, sorry. Starting over. I saw Stanley Sweet Heart 3.5 plain for $30. Complete, no rust. Deal or no deal?
3.5?
That's what it says.
I've never heard of a 3.5. There could be a 3.5 out there, but I've never heard of it. But if it's a 3, that's a fantastic price. If it's a 3.5, then get it. It's probably pretty rare. But yeah, no, that for a 3, that's great. So jump on it. What's next?
Hang on, dude.
I'm hanging.
You don't hang her right, remember?
Never hang right. Don't hang right. So hang lefts. Hang lefts is okay. Not right.
All right. Bryan Fulmer asked, James, ever work with weeping cherry wood? Any watch outs for making lumber?
I've never heard of weeping cherry, but cherry in general is a really nice wood to work with for hand tools. Very, very smooth and crisp, yet still hard enough. It's a very nice, very pleasant wood to work. But I've never heard of weeping cherry, so that'd be a new one for me. Always learning about new woods. There are thousands of them out there I've never played with. So, got another one?
Yes. Hang on. Let's see. Alan Isaac. Good evening. How long should I let a tree segment dry before using it for a build?
So you cut it down into 2-inch thick slabs, and you want to see how long it takes you to dry it. The general rule of thumb is 1 year per inch of thickness. However, that is a very vague rule of thumb. If that's outdoor in a generally wet climate, you may need longer than that. If it's indoor in a generally dry house, it will be done long before that. I think I have like 3 or 4 videos out now on how to tell when wood is dry. There's a couple different methods. My general favorite way is cut off a piece on the end, like 2 or 3 inches on the end of the board, and weigh it. And then keep track of it. Every month come back and write down its new weight. And it will get lighter and lighter and lighter as it gets rid of water. And eventually it will stabilize out at a consistent measurement. And when it does that, then you take a moisture meter and you test that small piece of wood. And if it says 9% water, then you can take that same moisture meter at the same time over to the original board and you can test it. And it will still be a higher moisture because it will dry slower because it's a bigger board. And you just keep testing that board until that board reaches the same percentage as the same small block of wood. And that way you'll know that the block of wood dries out faster, and you know it's dry because it's stopped losing its water. And when it's the same percentage, then they're both dry. So that's the general easiest way to really know that it's dry. But once you get good at it, you'll start to get an eye and feel for when the wood is dry. What's next?
Okay, 1 second.
Looks like we got quite a list of questions. We may not get to them all tonight.
It depends on how long you take to answer them. Let's
Very
see.
true.
Dennis Mika. I cut several 3-inch to 5-inch thick pine rounds, 36-inch in diameter. I am sealing with anchor seal. How long will they need to dry? They live in Ohio Valley, very humid.
Yeah, again, it varies wildly. It could be a year, 2 years. It could be 3 or 4. It could be 6 months. I really don't know. I would have to know your area and your conditions. Again, if you have one that you can set aside and measure its weight, do so. That's pretty much the most accurate way you can do it. Next.
Okay, let's see. Woodworking with Logan. What is a good angle for a block plane?
I'm guessing you're talking about the cutting angle. And most block planes are a bevel up low angle plane. And anytime you have a low angle plane, you want to keep that bevel angle as low as possible. So usually on my bevel up low angle block planes, I'm going to do them at 25 degrees. And that way I'm still keeping that low cutting angle, still good on end grain, still a nice easy push. So when you're doing it the one-handed, it's actually still easy to push through the wood. There are some bevel down higher angle block planes. They're not as common, in which case those I usually do at 35 degrees because the bevel really doesn't matter because it's the angle of the bed that then matters at that point. So yeah, most of the time, bevel up block planes 25 degrees is my go-to. That's next.
Pacific Coast Piper, what would you use for your wooden bar clamps?
The wood in the bar clamps, whatever I've got laying around. As long as it's straight grain wood, it works. I have a couple that are made of pine. Most of them are maple. I've got several that are, actually I think most of them are oak. And I've got several that are maple. I've got one that's cherry. I have one that's walnut. But yeah, pretty much anything because you're putting the board in tensile strength. And so the pressure is on the little hooks that go in there. So the pine ones tend to crush down a little bit more, but most any hardwood will do you well. So it doesn't really have to be anything special. If they're going to be longer, you might want something a little bit harder because there'll be a little more flex in them. But most of the time, it's just down to the length of them. So most of them are like 36 to 48 inches, so the beam is not going to be that big of a deal. What's next?
Sorry.
Seems like an active chat tonight.
Yeah. Rockjockmatt asked, what brand files do you recommend? I heard Nicholson went downhill since leaving the U.S. manufacturing.
I do not recommend any particular brand over another. When people start talking about good quality brand files, generally you're getting a bit too nitpicky. Even the cheap Junko ones that you'll buy in the big box store will still cut. They'll just dull a little bit faster, but they're a lot cheaper. And so in the long run, it's actually cheaper to buy the cheap files. And cutting wise, there really isn't that big a difference, especially when you're getting into smaller, finer files. They feel almost identical. Any feel difference is often in your head. That being said, yeah, I really can't say one brand or another because I very rarely buy new files. I find that I buy the antiques and the bucket-o files at garage sales, and those tend to keep me going. My saw filing files, I get the ones I have now are Baco. Those are really good. They last a good bit longer than I'm going to get the big box store ones, which is what I used for a long time. And I can get a little more specific sizes than I can at the big box stores, but they'll still work just the same. So it really, in the end, it comes down to if you have the money, you'll know what you're looking for, and if you don't have the money, then just go get the cheap one. It'll dull faster, but oh well, it's cheap. That's what you get it for. What's next?
Let's see. Tiny Woodshop asked, would you recommend getting a vintage draw knife instead of a premium one?
I actually have never used a new draw knife. The old ones are plentiful enough and cheap enough that they're pretty much all over the place, and so I've never actually needed to get a new one. So I don't have too much experience with that. Generally, again, it's the same thing of there isn't much to this. It's a blade in between two handles. And there aren't many cheap ones of these available. I mean, okay, there are a few cheap ones. If you go to Menards, you can actually get a draw knife at Menards, and it's one of the few cheap ones I've seen, which I really wouldn't trust, and it costs about as much as it does for an antique one. So I don't know why anyone would want to get one. But of course they have it at Menards, so I guess someone's buying it. But my expectation is that they're all pretty much the same. It's not something that you're going to really need good quality steel on. So, yeah. She's going to ask me another one, and while she's doing that, we're going to do the first giveaway for a shirt. So I'm going to put in the comments below, first person to guess the deepest I have gone on a dive. I go scuba diving, so the person to guess in feet how deep I have gone will win that shirt, or the one that fits their size. So what's the question while they're typing those in madly?
It's really hard not knowing I'm trying to remember the answer. See, James Crandall. So I'm going to attempt to file off the teeth and recut the teeth at a 5 ppi. Any suggestions / videos on how to do this?
I don't have a video on refiling. Paul Sellers actually has a really, really good one. And I really shouldn't have done this. I should be looking at it, but no one's posted it yet. Paul Sellers has a really good video on refiling teeth. And so I definitely say go take a look at that. Waiting for someone. No one's...
I think I know what the answer is, but...
Oh, really close. Joshua Hunter, you were only a couple feet off. Josiah Hunter, yeah, really close.
I have a feeling most of these people have never been scuba diving.
Yeah, to go lower than 130, you've got to get really technical and spend a lot of money.
10 times Sarah's height. Hey!
That's a lot more than that. A lot more than that. Ooh, John White was really close.
It's really hard. I don't really know the answer.
So close. 93. There we go. Alan. Alan, you got one.
I was like, I know it's in the 90s, but I couldn't remember exactly.
So 93 feet, yes. No, I'm certified for 130, but I've never gone deeper than 93. The couple dives I've scheduled for that got canceled. So, yeah, if you want to go lower than 130, you have to go into technical, and then you have to spend a crazy amount of money, and you have to start breathing other mixes, and yeah, it's a fun dive. So, cool. Yeah, Alan. I believe you're
Big boy large, please.
Did it say large? Oh, yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'll send it out to you. I should know your size by now.
I should send him the midget size just because.
So we'll do one more giveaway at the end, and stay tuned for that. What's the next question?
All right, let's see. Back to business. Harold Golden, do you know where I can find a good quality 4-in-hand rasp?
That, it's again, the ones I have are the Junko ones from the big box store, because you're not going to need this for detail work. Now, yes, if you really want to get picky and get a really nice one, because this one's machine stitched, so you can see all of the teeth are in line, and that can get into a vibration as it gets into a particular rhythm, but I haven't really noticed that big an issue with it. You can get handmade ones, but then they end up being like $100 a piece, where these are all hand stitched. Those are really expensive and generally just not worth it in my book. This one's one that I picked up from a big box store a while ago, and it works phenomenally. I just don't have any particular need for it. With a 4-in-hand, it's a rough tool. You're not going to be doing fine detail smoothing. It gets you close to what you want, and so you don't really need to worry about being too detailed with it. So yeah, that's another one I say, go and get a cheap one. You'll be fine. I think I've got 3 or 4 in here. And this one actually looks like it's hand stitched, but it's an incredibly cheap one. This one I think I got this one out of my bucket of files, but the stitching on the rasp side is in line, but they're kind of ragged. They're not quite exactly in line, so it makes me wonder if it was like hand stitched in Taiwan or something like that.
So Dennis wants to know, what do you mean by hand stitched?
The rasp here. Let me actually. Oh, sorry, that's way out of focus. The rasp on here. Each one of these teeth, they come in with a punch, and they punch it in. Tink, 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 tink. Every one of those teeth is punched in. So if it's done by a machine goes ka-chink, and it punches a whole row at once. Whereas a person with a hand will come in here and tap, 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 and actually individually create every one of these teeth to the exact same height. It is an incredible skill. but very expensive. So hand-stitched means they were actually hand-driven, hand-created. And a lot of people like that because the handmade rasp isn't as standard, so you don't get that vibration when it matches frequencies. That doesn't happen that much if you're careful with what you're doing. Though a hand-stitched rasp does feel really nice. What's next?
Colton asks, what is the best wood for a beginner woodworker?
Whatever wood you can find. Honestly, whatever wood's around you. Pine is a great wood to work on. You bump up to a little bit to a poplar. Poplar is fantastic for hand tools. Very, very easy to work. And then from that point on, you're working with whatever you can find around you. And so the question is, do you learn from a challenge? In which case you might want to get something harder and more difficult like an oak. Oak can be very stringy and annoying. Ash can be very annoying. But it's a great wood to learn on. If you can do it in oak, you can do it in anything else. You want something easier than cherry or a walnut or a poplar. Very easy woods to work, very simple. If you want to learn the basics, you can do it in that. But then when you do get into an oak, a hickory, or something of that nature, you're going to have to learn a whole lot of other skills. And so generally I like to learn it all at once and get that challenge and get it done with. That's why I like oak. But if you're not that type of person, then poplar might be your choice.
He makes it look so easy with oak. That's all I'm going to say as a true beginner. Wouldn't be my first pick, but that's just me.
What's next?
I also work in a shop that's not my height right now. Let's see. Damon Bauer. I'm making a tabletop from oak floorboards. Each piece is about 3 inches by 36 inches. So in order to get a good table size, the long edge of the table is all end grain. Any ideas on making that edge look decent?
Leave it in grain. I love the look of in grain. In the end, sorry, the screw just came a little loose. I just got a screw loose.
We knew that.
I love the look of in grain. Personally, that is my cup of tea. I think that looks good. Actually, I have a strip where it comes to the end of the stairs, and all of the end grain of the flooring comes out at the top of the tread. And so normally you would cut that back and you would put in a bullnose strip. But I really like the look of end grain, so I left the end grain open and they made the end grain bullnose. I know that really drives a lot of people crazy, but I like it, so it ends up being a personal preference. An easy way to remedy that is to put a breadboard end on it. And the breadboard end will also help it if there's any warping in the top, because all the grain is going in the same direction, especially being thinner floorboards. You might get some warping in the table. Putting that breadboard end across the end of all of the grain will stabilize and keep it flatter. That's a great skill to learn because there's mortising in there and you have to work with wood movement. So you have to put loose pins in there. So it's the traditional way to end a table. But you'll still have some end grain on the ends of the breadboards. So, yeah.
Someone super chatted, because this question has come up 3 times now. How is the plain iron test coming? 3 different people have asked it, and I just haven't gotten to it yet.
James, sorry. It is coming much, much slower than I anticipated. Originally, it was going to be a good bit smaller. I was planning on doing like 6 irons. But it's ending up being, my current calculation is somewhere around 400 hours of testing. I'm about 1/3 of the way through right now. I'm really hoping I will get a good amount of time to work on it next week. And that might get me halfway through. So if things really work out well, I might have it done mid-November. But we'll see. It's still going to be a while out. So it might end up being a Christmas present. It's taking longer, but that means that it's going to have a far better data. I have lots more data points that I can draw a clear conclusion from. So we'll see how it comes. The other thing is that I've gotten a few other irons that I wasn't expecting. It's now up to 21 different irons that we'll be testing. So it's a lot of testing. Every iron will do 400 curls 3 times. And then every iron will be dulled 3 full sets of times as well. So it's a lot of work, but eventually it will come. But it's all, this whole end of the bench is dedicated to it.
They will
right
come.
Yeah. Yes. I have all of the number 3 size irons done. And for those of you who are patrons on Patreon, I'm hoping to have the first set of results published for you guys, hopefully early next week. Hopefully. And so for patrons on Patreon, they get to see the spreadsheet before everyone else. And members, people who've clicked the join button on either channel, I will post that link for you guys as well. So it's coming. Sorry. What's next?
That's a mom joke.
Oh, yes.
Chat.
James
You ready?
mom joke.
What's it called when a chameleon can't change its colors anymore?
What?
A reptile dysfunction.
Should have known that one from the nurse.
Oh. You don't know. Nurse, like, there's like normal jokes, there's dad jokes, there's mom jokes, and then there's like nurse medical humor, and it's very dark and twisted. And unless you're in that family, you cannot understand.
The only step down from nurse is gallows humor.
Is what?
Gallows humor.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Anyone in the chat who works in the medical field will agree with me. We're just, we have poor coping mechanisms sometimes. Anyway.
What's next?
Moving on. Harold Golden. Making an axe handle from ash. Want to scorch it lightly to highlight the grain. Will a light scorching make the wood too brittle, or will it affect its ability to absorb BLO?
Nope. No, it actually will increase it. You get a Shishogi-ban on there, and it does multiple things for it. Number one, it actually will give it a little bit more water resistance, so it's a little more weather protected if you leave it outside. It will allow it to absorb more finish. It adds that color texture on there. Yeah, it's all around a good answer. It won't hurt it in any way. It's actually one of the common traditional ways to finish an axe handle is give it a little burning. So.
Let's see. Colton asks, have you ever worked with live oak?
Yes, quite a few times. I helped out on Tally Ho out on the West Coast, and that was a lot of fun because that's mostly live oak. My carving mallet, one of my favorite builds. This is a video. Oof, wow, let's zoom out. Don't like it that much, but this is live oak. Oh, I love live oak. Live oak is either my favorite or my second favorite. Just a really beautiful wood, lots of figure, incredibly dense, incredibly difficult to work with, but it's a very, very fun wood to work. I would love live oak trees growing around here, but they do not like snow. What's next?
Let's see. I'm guessing it's Jeanluc Desselle, and I'm sorry if I butchered that. What are your thoughts on a hybrid filed carcass saw for first saw? Looking to drop some serious coin on a bad axe saw, and it will be my only saw for a bit. Thanks.
I'm not a huge fan of the hybrid cut. It does both okay, but it does both anytime you try to get one tool to do multiple things, it just never does any of them really well. Personally, I would say if you're going to get a carcass saw, get crosscut. 80% of what you're going to be doing with the saw is crosscut work. And crosscut is what really requires a lot more focus. It requires a keener cut. So get the crosscut because it's easier to rip with a crosscut than it is to crosscut with a rip cut. And so, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the hybrid cut. But there are lots of people out there who absolutely love it. So in the end, it's a personal thing, but my money would be on go get the crosscut instead of the hybrid cut. But yeah, the carcass saw, that size is that is the most used saw in my shop. It is a fantastic saw, works great. One from Bad Axe is phenomenal saw. You will love it. So yeah, have fun with that. What's next?
That's next. Let's see. Tim Johnson, have you used a hands, is it ads to make a bowl?
No, I have never done that. It is very high on my list, and I have been looking for the ads that I want for a while, and I have not come across it. At least I haven't come across one that's for sale. So, yeah, I'm probably going to end up just going and getting the Nerix bowl ads because I have a blank of birch over there that's spalted and beautiful, and it has this really nice mold growing on it, and it will be a gorgeous bowl. And I really want to do an oval, elongated bowl with it. So that one's coming up here sometime. I just have not gotten to it yet. So stay tuned.
Josiah Hunter, how do you hold your low angle joiner onto your plane till?
I don't have a low angle jointer, but I don't know what you're talking about. I actually, if you're looking at my plane till, I have an entire video on making this and the rack that goes into it. Basically, this there's a little clip that comes over and hangs on the toe, and the bottom just sits on a shelf, which sounds really precarious. What if that bottom comes out and it falls? But the problem is all the weight of the plane is trying to push the plane back into the plane till. It wants to hang like this with it holding on there. So it's actually holding itself in really nicely. So it's just a clip on the top. So it just pops up and that clip slides in and it sits there. Pretty simple design. I picked that one up from Canadian woodworker. Interesting name. Can't remember it.
Not the one you went up to see.
No.
Okay.
Haven't met with him. I can't remember it. But yeah, it's a very simple design, and I've got a video on making the plane till, as well as plans available on my website. What's next? Was that a super chat?
We got a super chat, yep.
What did he say?
Cut down a 30-foot ash tree in our yard that died from beetle infestation, 15-inch in diameter. Do you recommend quarter sawing it or doing something else?
Depends on what you want to do with it. Ash doesn't have a huge benefit from quarter sawing. You're going to text broadcast?
Yes, I
am. There really isn't a huge benefit to ash to quarter sawn in that it doesn't have massive reflex. So you will get more wood out of it if you flat saw it. And most uses, that's probably a little bit better. I've never actually had a need for quarter sawn.
I forgot.
You forgot I have one. Yeah, I think I would flat saw it personally. You get more out of it, and what you end up doing is you make one cut right at the middle of the log, so that first one actually has quarter sawn on both sides, and so you kind of get the best of both worlds. And I need to have a talk with my daughters here.
It's the boys, apparently.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, thanks for the super chat.
All right, Pyro class. We owe a joke.
That's what I'm saying. Do you have a mom joke?
I'm getting there.
She's usually getting there.
Hang on, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think if I've ever heard of, I think I've heard of people selling quarter sawn ash. But I mean, the big benefit to it is if you're doing like ash handles, quarter sawn tends to have a better grain on it. However, the thing that's more important is not the quarter sawn, but that the grain goes all the way through the handle rather than it running out the side of the handle. So that's the big thing. Quarter sawn doesn't directly help you with, but it is nicer for the edge use.
All right,
I'm ready. Sorry.
I got a really corny one for you. Ready?
Yeah.
What is Beethoven's favorite fruit?
What?
Banana. I'm getting tired.
You said it was really corny, so I was trying to figure out how to fit corn in there. Corn isn't a fruit.
It's a food.
So
It's disqualifying. I'm sorry, Pyro class. That was not my usual caliber. Okay, I know I got 2 pulled out for sure, and then I got to go back through and see if we got time for others. Let's see. Alex asked, what's the best way to hold a long board to plane the edge?
I actually have 2 leg vices on my bench. And so if you watch the video series on making the bench, you can see what I've got here. Loosen, there we go. Let me show you on this one. So I actually like to have 2 vices here, and that way I can clamp one in here, the other one in there, and it will hold on really nice and strong. A lot of people will have 1 vise here, and then this side they'll just have a peg in the leg holding up the other end, or a hold fast locking it on. Some people will even do it with a crochet, which is just a hook that comes out in the end and hooks the end of the board, and they'll have a peg in this end to hold it up. So it comes down to being a personal preference, but for me, I like having 2 leg vices, but that's mainly because I like to teach, and so sometimes I like to show a wooden leg vise, and sometimes I like to show a fun mechanical one, which needs to be oiled. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that there really is no best way, and every woodworking guru you talk to will have a different methodology and different thing that they like. So, yeah, try it out and see which one you like. What's next?
Let's see. John White asked, do the cheap saw sets on eBay work, or should I look for an old one?
Yep. There are hundreds of different styles of saw sets. And the cheap ones that you can buy now on eBay are basically remakes of the old ones. There might be some slight weaknesses to them that make them a little bit cheaper, but functionally they're basically the same. And generally with a saw set, you're going to get small tooth saw set and a large tooth saw set, and there's a lot of gray area in between the two. And it's easier to do big teeth with a small saw set. You can't do small teeth with a big saw set because the hammer might push multiple teeth on the smaller ones. So if you have to get one or the other, get a small one, and then eventually you'll probably be like, let me get a big one because it's easier. But yeah, getting the cheaper ones work just fine. Of course, you start talking to saw aficionados and highfalutin filers, and they will argue that up one side and down another, that no, this is the best saw set you can get. But then the problem is you go talk to another saw filer and be like, no, this is the best one you can get. And there's another guy who's like, no, this is the one you have to get. Which is a great way to start arguments.
I just want to see highfalutin filer on somebody's resume. That's all I want. All right, I have 3 questions. I think they're probably going to be our last 3.
Okay. Unless someone throws up a super chat.
Unless you throw up a super chat. Okay, Alan Smith. Any kids gift builds or just gift build projects planned for pre-Christmas videos?
I actually have an entire playlist for Christmas gift ideas, and they're usually small giftish items. A couple of them were actually projects that I made with kids. So yeah, go to, it's on the main Wood by Wright page is that playlist. I need to make that playlist for the second channel here. But I will probably have a couple of those projects coming up in November. I usually try and do a couple small things like that. But if you're looking for a woodworker, a spoon carving set is actually a really, really good gift. Because it's one of those fun things that when you just want to relax, you want to sit down, you want to make something, you need a couple spoon carving knives, and you can sit down with a blank and have a good time and have something to show for it. And hey, they're on sale right now, so it'd be a good time for it. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Tay Tools has the Nerix hook knives and spoon blanks on sale for 50% off. 50% off.
So there was a question earlier as how long that coupon code
I do
was
not
good.
know.
Okay.
I do not know. So it may suddenly turn off one of these days, but he originally I thought when he was talking about it that it was just for the spoon blanks, but it's actually for the hook knives as well. So it's Spoon Flash, and then if you go to the last video from Saturday, it has links to all of them that are on sale. So yeah, make a great gift idea for the woodworker in your life, or send it to your wife and she'll buy them for you.
Problem is you buy all the tools that you want.
Yeah, well, tools usually aren't on my wish list.
No, they're not.
Because then they're a business
Except for a
expense.
Stanley #1, which...
It's going to be on there for a while. What's next?
Yeah. All right, John Clemens, what do you ask? What's your preference for sharpening draw knives?
I have a couple videos on that, actually. I use my diamond plates. Let me grab my extra course here. And I hold it like a violin. And I'll go to town on it. That's how I sharpen them. Sound effects and all. No, it's a fairly straightforward process, and I prefer to take the stone to the tool rather than the other way around, because it's just a little bit easier to do it that way. And with the diamond plates, it's very easy to pop them out and do that. But yeah, I do have a couple videos on showing that specifically if you want to see more. What's next?
All right, let's see. Tommy Roberts, what did he ask? How difficult is it to make spline boxes with just hand tools, or quickest, nicest box to build with hand tools only?
Spline boxes, no problem at all. I actually have done that a few times. The only thing is that your saw kerf is a lot thinner, and so you make your splines a lot thinner. Unless you want them bigger, in which case then you have to find a chisel, and so you cut off either side of the slot for the spline to go in, and then you chisel out in between the saw cuts, and then you make your spline to fit that. So it's really not that big a deal to do without a table saw. I actually find it a little bit easier because then you don't have to make a spline cutting jig to go on the table saw. Of course, most anything with power tools you have to make a jig to hold it, so that's the way it goes. So yeah, I do have a couple videos on that if you want to see those, though it's been a long time since I've done a spline box.
What is
I should probably do it sometime.
What's a spline?
So you have a miter joint where the corners come together at 45 degrees.
Yeah.
A spline then takes that 45 degree and slices into it this way. And so it's taking a piece of wood and putting it into the corner to secure that corner.
Ah.
And then you cut it off flush to the outside. So
Okay.
then you just see the line of the
gotcha.
spline on there. You can, well, that's one method. The other way of the other spline joint is you have the 45 like that, and the spline then goes down into it that way. But that's a lot harder to make and not as strong. So, yeah. All right, we got one more giveaway to do. So we are giving away one more of the shirts, and this is the what's the thing called? It's a
Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, yes, and they're for sale on the website if you want to buy them. But it has the dad joke and woodworking with wood by Wright in the middle. So
I'm still waiting for mom joke greater than dad joke wood by Wright.
let's do this one, and I do know this one. So I dive, and you figured out my deepest depth was 93 feet. How deep has Sarah gone? I don't even if you know what your deepest is. So I know what it is.
I think I know.
Because I have your computer recording of it. So how deep has Sarah gone?
How low can you go? How low can you go? You notice their numbers are
a
far
lot smaller.
smaller.
Although the very first one was pretty close.
One, Alex.
No, she is a certified open water diver and has done a decent amount of it.
I'm telling you, this bucket list that I've had since I married James, didn't know I was going to do all this stuff. Didn't know he was going to do all of it. 2 feet.
23, 25, 40, nope. 54, 31, 55, 28. The first number listed was only a few off. 40, 35, 49, 37, 34, 125, no. It is more than she is old, so it's more than 16.
Ha ha ha.
41, there it is.
Who said 41? Jeanluc?
Bryan Fulmer.
Bryan Fulmer. Oh, Jeanluc was so close behind. Bryan Fulmer.
So, Bryan, I think I have your information, but if not, send me an email. Go ahead and send me an email, otherwise I'll forget. And send me your shirt size. So I'm probably going to be doing, I ordered far more of those than they're selling, so I'm probably going to be doing a few giveaways in the upcoming lives. So if you want to win them, figure out our diving habits. But yeah.
Maybe we should do like a share winner next time.
A share winner?
I don't know. It's something they do on Facebook. You know, you share it and then they pick a person from all the shares. I don't know if you can do it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. So that's about it for today. I don't know what the topic will be for next week, but we are live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. So looking forward to that.
That's
We'll
how
be
we
doing
roll.
some tool talk or making a joint or something of that nature.
As long as we're not rolling them.
Yes.
That one was free.
So on that note, I think I'll do it. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
Oh, you want me to hit the button?
Yeah, hit the button. I'm waving.
Hang on.
I'm holding.